informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. I am rushing this intro off because where we left off, I want to jump right back in. My lovely co-host Gleneva, we are still in studio with Mr. and Mrs. Fleming, and if you missed the first episode, go back. There's a lot to digest there, but we stopped at a very important point. We are talking about 1967 to 1969, the interest in Anguilla at the time. Because Anguillians abroad in St. Thomas were no longer collecting the pennies in the $1 or the $2 to $3 and trying to hide away guns on a boat. There was money being pumped into this resistance being put up by Anguilla. Right. Last we heard, when we interviewed Mr. Harrigan Gleneva, he said he never saw these mercenary faces. He didn't see them, but as Gleneva realized, they had to get here somehow. I don't think they come here with a mask. Somebody had to get them here. Them came here somehow, and somebody had to house them because they ain't come and leave to go to St. Kitts one time. The plans were being made. And you kind of alluded that you knew them. Well, you saw them, not know them. You saw the mercenaries. Is that so?
Yeah, that's so. But you're not going to get me to say it in the public who they were, because, they were always helping us.
Good.
And that is what Harrigan, I think he swore to that. I wouldn't expect him to divulge that.
Which Harrigan are you speaking about?
All of them, whoever you interview, and those you didn't interview, those who passed already.
Okay, they all swore they would never say.
They'll never betray those guys. They were on the boat with them. Right. So how you ain't gonna know them?
I just wanted that little bit of...
But this makes sense, because you've always heard there were probably mercenaries, maybe mercenaries. But these mercenaries have never had names, a face, a connection. And it's interesting that we are now, while we may never uncover who they were,
James Bond.
who they were, it is clear that they played at least their presence spoke to something bigger than even just them.
Oh, yes.
And so that is revelations.
Yes.
And that, the point I was making about, there were people who saw big dollars down the road for an Anguilla that is free and independent. They wrote a constitution for Anguilla.
I was about to get to that because we had a constitution.
That wasn't the same one.
Not the present constitution.
No, not the present one. Where we were a republic.
That interim constitution that was in place.
To be a republic.
Right, to be a republic. It gave them, the Americans, a lot of control, a lot of power. They even wanted to make Scrub Island a separate entity with no governmental control at all.
With its own airport.
With its own airport, everything.
So a special economic zone, I can just call it what it is in today's terms.
Yeah.
A special
so
vehicle.
if people are putting out, if people are putting out their money, right, they ain't gonna put it out for
nothing.
Yeah, they want a return on their investment. You understand? And that's what they were looking for. And here, this is where the fidgetiness of a few of the Anguillians say, hey boy, we better stick with England here with it.
So they saw down the road.
Oh yeah.
So Anguilla didn't want to be quote unquote independent.
No.
No, we
Anguilla just
couldn't
wanted
afford
his
it.
fair share. We know we had to have
Stay with England.
some support.
Don't
that-
have Sinkits manning us.
and nobody else.
But you know a few people will be greedy when the money started flowing in. And the power it had, because if I control the valley and West End, a few other areas, I know any election I got the populace with me. So we had our own internal struggle after the money started coming.
There she goes. There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll sign up from now. There she goes.
No, I think you
Well-
touched on something that I have asked. I think I asked it on this show. Asked it before because something shifted. Something shifted where we moved away from a united people, a people that can get together
And do everything.
and push for a revolution for separation from Sinkets.
But we were all in the same boat. We all didn't have anything.
That's
but
it.
when that dollar comes in, and so you're seeing more than the dollar now, you're seeing power. And that's where it
Dollars for
changed.
me, not for you.
That's right.
And historically,
Yeah.
and just in comparison to some of our regional counterparts, Anguilla didn't have a class system. We didn't have Massa, those closer to Massa, and then those furthest away from Massa.
Not that we know of.
Not that
We'll
we
have to
know,
go back further.
probably further.
Yeah.
But even in some of those places where after slavery was abolished, they maintained that class structure where you have the bourgeoisie up on top. That's what I've heard them refer to.
Yeah.
Then you had the working class persons. In Anguilla, we have not had that separation of prior to 67, 69, we did not have that separation. Everybody was, am I wrong in my assertion that we didn't have that?
No,
More
we
up
didn't
to the
have.
sky. Go say what you want to say.
That's why I asked if I was wrong in my assertion that we didn't
Say what
have.
you saying.
Say what you want to say, because
And
you start a different
if I
story.
say, then I would be including myself. And you know, my grandfather, Joseph Benjamin Hodge,
He was the biggest landowner in East End that I know of.
Okay.
Scrub Island and Junction.
Yeah.
And everybody would look up to him like he's a father of our where we live.
And he
We
was
didn't
like
call
the
them
law
villages that
without
time.
the law.
If
You know.
if two husband and wife were fighting down the road, they would come to him, and he would settle it. You know, you tell her you're sorry, and you never hit her again. You know, that kind of thing. And they would come to him for everything. Like for instance, a dog bit a lady once on her breast, and she was breastfeeding. She had a baby and she was breastfeeding. A dog bit her right on her nipple. And she came crying. Mr. Hodgen, Mr. Hodgen. And he sucked it out. He said because the dog biting that nipple would poison the milk for the child. So he sucked it out, and then, you know, he told her it will be all right, you know, to feed the child. Make sure she feed the child with it.
Okay.
So, I mean, he did a lot of stuff to attend to different people with different needs.
So we had persons we had leadership structures. We had land ownership, but yet still we were still economically all in the same brackets
All in
about.
the same boat.
Because
Yeah.
land, the value of land meant you can
Didn't
grow
mean-
crops, but
Yeah,
it
that's
didn't
all.
mean much more than.
So influence and respect was the currency of the
Was
day.
it? Yes, yes. Tons of people went up to Junksol to reap the cotton. It wasn't in my days. I would think I was a child, you know, to remember that.
Yeah, before you.
Yeah, before I was probably born. But they used to grow cotton, and these people went and he would feed them. That was a pay, I would say. just to feed people.
Mm.
As there was no money, no checks and stuff like that going on.
She was born in 45.
Mm-hmm.
What she's describing about her grandfather, every village in Anguilla had that.
Okay.
Had a village yard, like what we got.
Every different area, because we didn't
Every-
call them villages.
Yeah, no.
Oh, so they weren't caught.
That
They were
one
just
village
No.
came from St. Kitts.
Yeah, it wasn't village.
When John
it was,
Benjamin came here.
area or district,
Okay.
right? And there was, I know a man in the Palm Ground who had the respect of the Palm Ground, Mount
Yeah, a different
Fortune,
area.
the cops, and he couldn't read.
But the same with my grandfather. He couldn't read. But he was the general of the area.
Mm.
You know.
And a wise man.
Wise man. You talk
Yeah.
about the sucking out the milk. That was just one thing. Anybody got a cut, got anything happen, they will come to him.
And he
He
wasn't
was
a doctor.
the magistrate,
Well, look.
the judge, the priest, everything.
Her mother was his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and he passed it on to her. She became
The generalis.
a midwife,
Uh-huh.
dentist.
Without the education.
Dentist. She pulled everybody's teeth in Alanaba.
And saw every baby,
Born.
brought every baby born to them.
She and another, I
Without
know,
having,
4 ladies
I mean,
that did that.
Formal training.
Formal training. When my brother became a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
he said to my mother, "You have to stop that because you need formal training to bring a baby into this world." She said, "No, I don't. I brought everybody in Island Harbor in this world without losing one."
Wow. We are coming from people walking the dust, very little clothes. A time when Anguilla didn't rain, no water. Children would have died, albeit 2 children would have died from starvation. To taking up the cars, digging deep, finding the courage, putting some structure together. The passion that was bought years before we really decided we're going to jump on a boat, the Rambler to be exact, and go to St. Kitts. And let the world know that there's a people that fighting for our cause. To existing in our own little bit of independence for a moment. To deciding, well, we have your attention now, this is what we want. We want to chart our own course. In between there, whenever you alluded to it, somewhere we kind of like got disconnected. We're in the same boat, not necessarily rowing at the same speed. Some want to get there faster, some want to take their time.
Not if you're in the same boat.
But I think I'm trying to paint a picture now.
I think we're all in the same waters, but we
Yeah,
ain't in the same boat no
water.
more because from what I'm hearing, some still rowing, but some got a motorboat.
Exactly.
That's okay. I was getting there. You jump
Okay.
ahead, so let me jump
Okay.
ahead. Let me go back to how I
Okay,
was
go
saying.
ahead.
At some point, you realize that this person ain't going at the speed that I want. So some would have left the boat, swim back to shore and decide, it's gonna take me a little longer, but I'm gonna be moving faster than you in a minute.
Yeah.
What do you think? Not a separation. I don't want to call it that. What do you think the differences of opinions would have done for Anguilla?
I think when people, what changes people anywhere is if my brother or my sister, we are in the same boat. And then I noticed that my sister, she got, instead of, we were born in a little watling dub, but now she has a 2-bedroom house, mine only one. You understand? As simple as that sounds, that has materialized itself in Anguilla.
Into jealousies.
Jealousies over and over. Now, when we didn't have, we were
All
together.
together.
Understand? We shared everything.
Hmm.
Understand? I remember a box would come from my father in St. Martin, and I would go to the boat, Sandy Hill, bring the box home. My grandmother would open it, see what it, because my father packed everything from his grocery store in French Quarter. And because my grandmother was raising me, right? And she would separate it out in parcels. I don't know what's going on in her mind, but she would take up this parcel and say, carry there for Marion, or by Marion. Carry this for Roseanne. Carry this for Cammy. And all of the stuff, I'm now maybe 9 or 10, right? All of the stuff that my father sent, and I got some pride in that is my father sent it because of me, right? And I watch it all,
Disappearing.
and I would get upset.
And you had to take it.
I could, and I had to take it.
You
I
can't
couldn't
drop it
say,
either.
No, sir.
I can't say anything about it either, but the feeling is there. Then you would hear my grandmother say one day, Lord, I ain't got a thing to cook. Not a dust of food in the house. And you would see a parcel coming from over here and another little commission coming from over here. You understand?
Return the
So by the
favors.
time I was 12, I realized this
Have to help
is
each
how
other.
we got to help each other. This is how we live. I went to St. Thomas, and let me tell you, Anguillians are better away than we are at home.
That's a fact.
Better
Better
to
together.
one another. To
That's
one
a
another.
Say it. Say it.
This, I remember a guy from East End walked when he heard that Kenneth Fleming, probably heard, he died on a motorcycle in St. Thomas. But we were like brothers. He was my cousin, but we were like brothers. When this guy heard that we were there, he left from Smith Bay and came to where?
Content.
Content
In St. Thomas.
in St.
Far
Thomas. Walked
Up Rappoon Hill, I went
all
all the way around.
all from Smith Bay.
Wow.
From Smith Bay,
Miles,
he walked,
Miles.
and came to us to tell us where to go for a job tomorrow.
Say what?
Yeah. Walk to tell you.
He couldn't
these people
afford
got
to
a job.
take the 10 cents for the
bus.
bus. Well, he could afford it, but he didn't want to
Not
raise
then,
10
not
cents then. Because then, in those days,
You
when
had
we
to
were
be saving.
58, you saving for back home. You understand? He walked it to tell us where to go for a job. And we
You think
went.
you have people like that now?
No.
They have cars, but they ain't going to tell you to go there for a job.
They even ain't going with their cars, they ain't gonna tell you. Not anymore. That's how we changed, you know.
But I think there is something to be said about persons in spaces that are unfamiliar. So moving out of Anguilla and going into spaces where in countries, because you see the strong Anguilla associations in New York, in Florida, in England, in Canada. I think they have
I
one.
started one in St. Thomas,
And
Anguilla Virgin Island Society.
And so there is something still that connects us as a people. Now, I don't know how we translate that and get that to exist right here.
Why doesn't it
So-
exist here?
To continue, this is what we've been saying. How do we get back to the point of being your brother's keeper? There's a saying that always bothered me. And I understand what they mean by it, but it still bothers me. When your neighbor house is on fire, wet yours. I understand why they say that.
But why not out it?
You know, why
But
not try to help the
but
neighbor?
it bothers me because I go, when your neighbor house is on fire, go
Watch out
help,
for
go
yours, go
help,
help
go
him.
help he.
Throw water
Go
there.
help him out his. Why are we being selfish thinking about ours, making sure that wet, and he won't burning?
I don't see how that can help you because you
that-
can get a smoke damage anyhow.
That saying has always bothered me because I think when your neighbor's house is on fire,
We should help him out it.
you should help
Let
him
me,
out.
let me
that.
ask you all a question. When I came back home in 89, Angola was moving steadily forward. As a matter of fact, there were people who wanted a job, had a job. Had 2 and 3 jobs if you wanted. And we were doing well. You could put money in the treasury. We are making a lot more money now, but we can't go a year without that money in the treasury being exhausted. We can't save anything now. We've become so pluralistic and needing. We don't save anymore. So we don't even expect government to save. You understand? For government to run in Angola and for Angola to grow, you have to prioritize. You have to say, this is the most important thing for us to do now. Tell me this, answer me this, because I can't figure it up to now. How did we happen to lose the financial services
Mr. Fleming.
business that brought
Mr. Fleming. Mr. Fleming, I'll stand up the whole law before you let this one unleash. Mr. Fleming, you gonna I'll say this. You don't
I will. You know I will.
You don't
I
think
don't
Gleneagles.
know, and we have to go there. I don't know. I was not around when, even if I was around, I was of no age to comprehend how or why we lost financial services. And I am going to allow Ivan to speak to this. I'm going to shoot this right into his court. I am going to land this ball here and let him take his hat as PRO and come back to me on it. I am not so much mindful as to how we lost it and when we lost it. I am mindful as to why we are not fighting to get it back.
How could we?
So here's the thing.
And I don't expect you to answer no, Ivan, but
No.
I do think that those are conversations, and it's important. Those are conversations that
should be having.
should be happening.
And they are being had. I'll say this though. You said something that I saw the glow in your eyes and I was saying, please don't cry when you started talking about how we live. That is the root of the problem. We forget that as a people we're interrelated, we're interconnected, and we're mutually vulnerable. I've been saying that for years. You talk about how everybody would come to the house. We had the village homes. We were interrelated. We're interconnected. If something affected me, it affects you too. And because of that, we were always and would always be mutually vulnerable. But somewhere along the line, if I may be so blunt to say, greed stepped in. And it didn't have to be greed in a specific industry or a specific area. But because we are, and because that's the way life prescribes it, everything is interconnected. So we've done a poor job at managing and being disciplined in areas that we thought was standalone, but they weren't. When you look at what has transpired in our banking sector, When you look at you talk about the fact that you have to save something. When you look at the years gone where there was nothing in the treasury, there's nothing to fall back on. Coming from a people in a time where we had dust and potatoes and hard life. But we know what hard work is. I think we are comfortable knowing that if I don't do it, somebody's going to work hard. And even that is fading because right now, in some industries, in some planes, some Anguillians don't even want to do the work. You understand? There's something about us that has been changing as a people. And this is the roundabout answer for where financial services is concerned. But you touched on something, and I'm going to say this as candid as I possibly can, knowing that there are ramifications for whatever else is going on. Because I know for a fact government has been working on its compliance and these things. But what's placed on Anguilla today ain't no different to the things that you alluded that were being placed on Anguilla in the past. Because there's interest in Anguilla. But we are allowing people to define what that interest is or should look like for us because they have their own intent. If you could understand what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but I think you're missing where Mr. Fleming was going with this. In that, Anguilla no longer controls financial services as a body. It is directly under the governor. We gave it away.
But why we gave it away?
I just said I don't know.
But I took the roundabout way to talk
Because
about
what we're dealing-
why we gave it away.
Yeah, because what we're dealing with is the effects of not having control of it.
Yes.
I understand.
And yes, we have to deal, and yes, we know, and we ain't gonna go into financial stuff, but yes, we know that there are some other entities and some other issues at play. But when I think of some of the other OTs and the way that they get to control, directly controlled by the elected persons in those countries, that they get to control, negotiate, and discuss how and where they want that industry to go, that is not something that we have control over.
I'm going to go back to episode 1. I'm going to go back to about an hour and a half ago where you talk about the fact that somebody, the plans that somebody have for you ain't the plans that you have for yourself. And that's not what we're getting over. I do not take it lightly, the interest that has existed in Anguilla as an entity, as a people, as a place, as potential or whatever, prior to 1967. So when you're going to sit here and tell me that Mr. Atlin Harrigan was penning and he had this thing in his DNA from long, but he was up there in England, right? But you don't think then he was with St. Thomas, right?
Yeah.
But you don't think some place, but yeah, he went it over. But you don't think some place the conversation about these things started way before? I'm going around. I'm going about it the roundabout way. But I want a person to go back to listen. Sometimes you have to read between the lines. You know where Anguilla would have been, or would be, if we explore our full potential.
And not give it away.
And not give it away. And not let somebody take it away with a bragging talk. Anguillians, don't mess with the Anguillian in their land, right?
Listen.
Go ahead.
I made this proposal early when I came back home in '89. Just how we are giving, I know my people, very ambitious, and if you could do it, Anguillian can do it,
Right.
right? Why don't you challenge your Anguilla people? Give them the same incentives that you give the foreigner. Even if you got to say, well, the rooms has to be a certain level. You understand? 10, 15 of us can get together and build anything that they got
Right.
and charge the same what they're charging tonight because we can have it to that level. But we never got the incentive. It was never put out there. They will advertise it overseas, England and We are. But I challenge the government. Give that incentive to Anguillians, even if 10 of us got to get together, 5, whatever. And even if we can't build 50 rooms, we can build 15.
Start.
You understand? And that staying home.
But this is my thing, and it's a little bit close to me. You talk about the lights of Beldon, Clayton. Anguilla per capita, man, throughout the Caribbean has produced the most pilots.
Of course.
Anguilla, we were told Anguilla had plane and boat when St. Kitts had nothing.
That's true.
You've seen all these regional airlines come, go, drop aside. But you still have our local carriers here still pushing through. St. Martin can't get in the boat trade yet. Tatola and St. Thomas got 2 families between both of them that's doing it. But you got 4, 5, 6 down here that's doing it. What you said there is true. At what point is there going to be an economic revolution that says, hey, I want to put a little bit more in my people? You know where that was going? And that's where the real revolution started. It took a while to get here. But that was happening in financial services. So you see why it had to be, how you going to have everything?
Get away.
How you going to have everything? How you going to tell somebody that have everything and not just have everything, that have the means to create what they don't have? How you going to control those people? At the bottom of it all, at the end of the day, it's control. Think about it. Think about the Malcolm X's that were, and the Martin Luther. It's not that
they kill you.
You see where you're going with that? It's the control that people don't want to give up. So I took a roundabout way to go at it. I'm being a bit diplomatic because this is going to be pressed in history. But that's the conversation that we need to start having. Because not just about giving the control to somebody else. You mentioned at the end of the day, the power that people want.
That's right.
So we have to check some even of our own Anguilla people. Because when they get the power, they tend to want to abuse.
Exactly.
They want to hold on, they want to put aside, and that ain't the way to go. Those are the things that we have to fix about ourselves. Because we are always a people that cared. You wouldn't imagine the stories people just tell me about my father. The man that used to drive the Packer. I went visit my cousin in St. Martin, his nephew, which is Claret, can I call his name. And he bragging to me that he making ice cream. Now, boy, when I used to come to Anguilla, Uncle Ivy used to make me ice cream. So I carried my kids to visit him, and they could not leave his house until he made them ice cream. You understand? Albeit he got a machine now, he knew what he got to do. But here my kids, oh my God, this is the best ice cream ever. And it warmed my heart. It warmed my heart because he's doing for them what his uncle Ivan and my father did for him.
Yeah.
But what are we passing down other than a bit of, like, what are we passing down now as Anguillians? I'm concerned, and this is why I'm happy that Gleneva wanted to do this. And I was like, of course I can tell her yes, I can't tell her no. But I was excited to do this because I haven't had an opportunity to sit in a room. This lady here, I love her bad, and I admire her. She's a little firecracker.
That's my husband.
I understand you have a husband. You see? But there's so much wealth that you shared here today that I'm hoping, like, they take it up, they're playing their PSC classes, they're going to be out there and it's going to be on TV and everywhere, but people need to understand, like, there are some tenets about us that we have to get back to. I'll tell you something, that I know science, I know biology, I know much about history and whatever else the song say, right? But years back, I gave the keynote address at a graduation ceremony. And the theme of my speech was, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. A lot of people don't know what their purpose is. And nobody ain't trying to help them find it. That's the challenge today.
Ivan, I am going to take that a step further. Because you say that a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. And this is something that speak about it till blue in the face. But part of our issue is that as a country, we don't know what our purpose is. What
What do you
are we
want?
moving towards? What is it that we want to achieve as a country? Because we knew what we wanted to achieve in 1967.
Stop right there. I ain't cutting you off. But just this week, just 4 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, somebody tell me, you know the problem? After we got the revolution, we didn't know what we wanted. Since then, them tell me, since then, Angola didn't know what they want.
And therein lies the problem. We knew it was clear as day what it is that we
We
wanted.
didn't want to be a part of Sinkers. You said it here yourself.
Yeah.
We were clear. We wanted one thing, and that was to separate from Sinkits.
Mm.
We achieved that.
What now?
And for too long, it has been whatever wind blow, this is the latest thing, we move towards that. Well, this is the next thing, we move towards that. And we've not had a clear and direct vision for what we want as a people, as a collective, not as a government, not as any political administration, but as a people. And my fear is that 56 years later, we have waited far too long
To try to define this.
to try, not only to try to define it, but for us to find some sort of common ground.
Look, when I made the proposal, I think Emile was still chief minister then, about us. Since we're going into tourism, if you're a government, what do you want in this venture, this new thing for your people? I'm not hearing anything. I'm hearing, well, the people, when they come to St. Martin, they're going to look over
Yeah.
here.
And see what's
I
that.
heard that.
See what? Where you to see from?
And
What's
see
that?
that little island over
But we
there?
didn't- but we didn't
And
have lights.
We,
What's that?
we will wonder about it and they will come.
Stop, man. You need to get me upset. So they didn't have a plan then?
No. Evident. That's
That's
evident.
You know,
So,
over the years, I'll say this. Over the years, I know that there's been the tourism master plans. You've had persons that have produced a plan for where we wanted to go in tourism over the years.
yep, but that plan existed. Yeah, but it wasn't a plan for us. It's a plan that to make it attractive enough for somebody to come. We are already here. You understand? When they come and invest in Angola, they might come and invest $50 million. Right? They are doing that because they see a profit. They ain't gonna develop that
themselves.
profit here. That goes back where they come from. Ours will be smaller, but it will be
Still-
bigger.
But this is my thing. What is so hard in supporting our own? Like,
Well,
what is so hard in supporting our own? There's no reason why, with what you do, and others get in trouble, and I don't care at this point. There's no reason why, in what you do, the stories that you've told, the playwright that you are, the wealth of knowledge that you are, there's no reason why that there isn't money behind of you to actually produce these things. When we were talking with Mr. Harrigan, we talked about the fact that this needed to be a movie. Like,
You need support.
So
we
I
need support, but why is there no support?
because I think we spoke about it earlier. It is easier for someone removed from your circle to see someone removed from your circle buying a motorboat than it is to see the person that you grew up in a one-bedroom house with buying a motorboat and you still in a rowboat.
jealousy.
Unfortunately, that is the reality. The reality is that for some of us, if he got a speedboat, no yacht,
Yeah.
that's okay
I can get
because
that.
it's not because it's not a direct reflection of me. But if the person that I grew up in the same one-bedroom house with now got a motorboat and a yacht, and I still in a rowboat, then it's like, but why you got that and not me? We came from the same seed, we came from the same space in the same place. And it is difficult, it's a much difficult pill to swallow, to see the person that you grew up with in a better position than it is to see the outsider who you have no connection to.
That's not me though. I don't
No,
understand.
it isn't, but that is the mentality
That
of quite.
is what's killing Anguilla right now, what she just said.
That
How
is
do we
the-
fix it?
Well, I try my best. Well, we try our best. We move the children we know from little children in the theater to bring them up. We can point out quite a few in top jobs in Anguilla. I won't name them, but I have quite a few policemen. I have quite a few girls in top jobs, you know, from the theater. And that's the way you
You
get them
try,
to
you
promote
try one
children,
on one, because you come in the yard and you'll see just how we grew up. We still live the same way, right?
I don't think anybody can enter my front door if I don't give them something to eat.
You know, you
Because I know that's where we're going from here.
You will get something.
you come in the yard and you see a sign carved in the rock, the village yard. My grandmother's house was a village yard.
Talk about my
Everybody.
grandparents' house. It was an island. Yeah.
Everybody was there.
Everybody, every village had a center.
You
You
cannot
know?
charge people
And-
for doing something for them.
I don't run into that problem all the time.
Ivan, when I think about it, you know, I'm listening to them speak, and I did not realize that this was intentionally done. It just was. My dad would go there, so I went there. You know,
Well, that's his bedroom.
my dad would go there, so I went there. But I have met so many interesting people, such a wide array and mix of people. People from all walks of life, that you just gravitate towards this house. I've had persons and friends from outside of Anguilla, and I felt the need to bring them with me to Mona and Felix's house. Because when you sit and you sit down
You're just comfortable.
and you play your
Well,
dominoes
thank
and you have your little eggs, when you get there is something still that connects us in that space.
Yeah.
And it is the fact that that space is missing throughout the island, where people could just come and connect.
Yeah, we got people that come and you come, open the door, you go, okay, he wants to sleep for an hour or two. You want me to wake you up?
And it's one of the best places to get us sleep on this island.
Yeah.
Outside of the Sargassum, it is one of the best places to get us sleep. I know the last time I was there, the chair was pulled out for me and your bed is ready. You know, and I think that sense of community, to be able to create the spaces, and I know we spoke about that because listening to the House of Assembly the other day when you spoke about mentors and the need for persons to mentor people, whether it's in a formal setting or informal setting, whether it is a place and a space where persons can feel comfortable to commune with one another. But let me tell you, my daughter, she goes, when we go in with my grandparents again, if she know that this is where I be, I'm going to probably have to drop her there
She
this
will come
afternoon, you know. But it is there is something that draws you to a space where you know you are safe.
You're safe and you're
You-
loved.
You are loved. It is knowing that, one, you are exposed to this wealth of knowledge. All the time. You're able to continue.
Starting when he coming.
I should tell him when I do this, some other things happen.
No, but it is how do we continue to, there's
That's
so
it.
many questions of how do we bridge the generational gap.
That's it.
It's
That's what I'm
what
starting to think.
it's why I was so interested in doing this series. In how do we get back to some of those basic things that make us an Anguillian, that sense of community, that sense of unity, that sense of looking out for one's brother and being your brother's keeper. It is through the stories, it is through the people, it is through the connections that we don't lose that part of us.
Yeah.
And that is why this was so important for me. That is why I think we have to find ways to create the environment and the environment for this to continue to happen.
You're so right. I remember my children growing up in St. Thomas, and I said, you know, I know what I got out of Anguilla, for growing up here and going to school. I know what I got. If I keep my children in St. Thomas, they can't be like
No,
me.
they cannot learn it.
They cannot be like me. I pack them up and send them home. Learn to move the goats, pick wood.
Yeah.
And they learned that. Listen, and those boys, I am so proud of them.
Listen, you said that it even translated, like I was telling anybody, not for obvious reason, because Anguillians are build the best and strongest house, right? But if hurricane coming, I ain't want to be no place else but Anguilla.
You better believe that.
I don't care for swimming. I know Jesus copyrighted miracle water and water, but the Bible tell me greater things shall I do. Hey, hallelujah, because I will walk on water and reach home. Hey, I walk on water and reach home.
Jesus shoes.
I got my Jesus shoes and I walk on water and I get home. But I'm saying all that to say, like when my ex-wife, at the time when we finished school and everything, I worked for UVI for a year, and there was interest post that to do things. I mean, she was on scholarship, so she had to come home, but we had 2 children, and what you saying there, I didn't want my kids to grow up there. Like, I remember she went ahead of me, and then I came home, like, a couple days after. I packed up the container, shipped the car, come home, right? I never forget. Now, where we live Frenchman's Bay back then. Nice area. But it was concrete. It's concrete.
Just concrete.
Just concrete. I remember I saw EJ, a toddler, in a pamper. EJ was a red baby. Red. Yeah, look at a sheet of paper. Right? When I saw my child, right? I'm like, wow, he gets so dark. A couple days. But wait, he just give you a little hug and a kiss, but he want to go down. And he run the yard, and he playing with everything out there. Being a kid, being a child. Like, Anguilla is a beautiful place to grow up.
Raise a child.
Like, but those things are under threat now.
Yes.
I remember when I went to school, there was community in school. There wasn't these factions fighting. The biggest fight I saw in primary school, in high school, the East and the West thing I kind of started. Garbage, absolute garbage. But it wasn't no knife and no gun. I thought it was the funniest thing because I see this fella pull, the palm tree that was by the bathroom, have palm tree. I see he pull one of the branches out and slap a dude. So I was like, what? I thought this stuff was happening in the movies. That was the biggest fight you saw. But then that quelled. And then people still were able to move about and be free. Today you have people who moved from Shoal Bay, now living in Sandy Ground because they married somebody there, they got war with this person, and when you check the lineage, they're cousins.
That's
Like first cousin.
listen, Anguilla is only so big.
It's only so big.
35 square miles and getting smaller by the day with erosion and everything.
You better stop that, guy.
Taking
We
the
have
sand
this thing
going-
down here.
No, but
You don't touch this thing. You stop there.
Yes.
Stop there. You don't talk about that, please.
but
You gonna get me in
we
trouble.
getting smaller by the day.
Where I'm taking the sand from?
Yeah, I say
Everywhere?
I say we getting smaller by the day.
What you know who taking the sand?
Here again.
It's public.
Not because it's Mona. Before, I don't know. I don't know if the dates are right. You remember we had an organization called Anguilla Conservation Society.
Mm.
And we were mainly focused on protecting the beaches. But we found out quickly that we can't enforce anything without government.
Mm.
Government
And it is still not enforced.
still not enforced. And we made signs of the society did it and put up all over the beaches.
You
to
got all those who are
protect
in charge who has to make it. Their houses are being built from it.
you understand?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Uh,
I'm not asking you.
So how do you look how stupid this is? I mean,
The red wine and
these
cheese.
are our
Yes.
people, our own people,
Our own people destroying
our
us.
own people.
Uh-huh.
We depend solely
Uh-huh.
on tourism. What is tourism? Sun, sand, and sea.
Something else too, but we're not talking
Huh?
about PG-13.
Huh? And we are going to destroy the very beaches. There's no Soil Bay anymore.
That's
that
gone.
was gone from early.
Where you remove all
There
the
is
sand.
no Sandy Hill Bay beach.
There's no junk soul.
It's gone. Junks Hole,
It's gone. Shoal
Savannah
East
Bay is going now. One of the
Shoal
biggest.
East has gone.
Huh?
They're taking sand
And
from all
So-
the-
I
so won't
haven't
have
seen
beaches.
I haven't seen one person locked up for removing sand from a beach. That when you move sand from here, you are
our
affecting
income.
all of us.
But it affect you know that you say that, right? When I was on the boat during Blue Week, we had some folks here from the UK, and we were on the boat with Dean from Sanderground because Ed Carter couldn't come. And they were talking about the sand mining and those type of things. And I was told that the removal of sand in Junks Hole affected the flow
Of course.
waves,
Yeah,
current and
you-
everything.
Yes.
That causes stuff out in Shoal Bay,
Exactly.
even down to Sandy Ground.
Exactly.
All the sand is sold to Cap Juluka, who went out in the ocean.
Yeah, so it's trying to,
it's trying to settle
level
itself.
itself around to make it how it
It must stay
original.
where you put it.
No,
That's true.
If
Nature needs to
you're
find its
moving,
laws.
Not
yeah.
even the houses they're building with it. It can't stay because it's salt.
Yeah, the busting out.
Okay.
The steel busting out and then them trying to fix
No, the
it.
steel swells.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the salt.
Bust the concrete.
That's it.
But it don't make sense why them don't stop.
So,
But
Ivan,
sorry.
this. I don't even remember why I started talking about Anguilla getting smaller at this point.
Yeah,
You
it
started
gets
that.
smaller.
I did, but I don't remember why.
Anguilla will be covered by the ocean in a while.
But I think it speaks to, again, where I started previously, the need for a national development plan that takes all of these things into consideration. How does tourism affect me? How does healthcare affect you? It cannot be individualized plans. We have to have a concretized, unified plan for Anguilla that says where we want to go, where we want this 35 square miles to go, what do
It's
we
getting
want
less, Neva. It's less than 35.
what do we want it to look like for our children,
Exactly.
grandchildren, and great grandchildren? Even if I'm never around to see them, what is it? What is the legacy that we want to leave behind for them? And if we continue on the path of moving to everybody else's drum, because that is what we've been doing. We've not been able to beat our own drum and say, this is the beat that I want to move to. But we've been dancing to everybody else's beat because so-and-so tell you have to do this and so-and-so tell you have to do that. What is it that we want for ourselves, for our people? And how do we ensure that we get there before it's too late? Because, Ivan, I know we'll wrap it up. And I'm going to wrap up on this note. We spoke about this a few episodes back. A lot of what I am seeing now, a lot of what we are witnessing now, is that we cannot find common ground as a people. We are so polarized so divided
So
Along-
meistic.
Sorry.
Meistic.
What?
It's a new word.
Wow.
It's a writer.
Respect in every aspect, Rasta. I can write that one down. Meistic and my status now. Keep going, Glennie.
but what
Putting it on his
quote me,
status.
you know.
yes how do we ensure that we don't lose ourselves completely and that we do it and define where we want to go before there is nothing that defines us as a people. We wear these shirts, Ivan, that says Anguilla, it's in my DNA. But if our DNA is too mutated, and I don't say mutated by meaning
Other bloods.
other bloods. It's mutated by cancers that exist within us and within us as a people because we cannot define who we are. To a point, that we cannot define who we are anymore. I am afraid of where we will end up.
That's why you have to make meistic in our own vocabulary.
And so I am going to get the definition of meistic off
And
camera.
one of the things that I know and have realized that has contributed to us losing our culture, who we are as Anguillians, is the lack of pride in self. I'll give you one example. I've been writing for a long time. I wrote for many carnival queens in Antigua, St. Kitts, St. Thomas, Anguilla. And I use the talent section, that's where I come in, to highlight the things in society that I want. That's how I
Get the message out.
we are not proud of ourselves. That's why somebody can come in here with their culture,
And change
and
ours.
because they are from a bigger country, I saw it as a child growing up. I watched it change. The girls, well, maybe I was jealous too. The girls a fellow would come from St. Martin with a pretty shirt and a kerchief, pretty
Hanging out.
kerchief hanging out of his pants, and can't read. But the girl's going with that fella.
To this day, let a bad man come here.
Huh? You know what?
So
That
now.
got me so angry. You know? Because I always said to myself, I'm prejudiced.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Anguillian.
All Anguillians are prejudiced.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Anguilla for
I
us.
don't know.
They're proud.
I don't know. I always say, I can't marry anybody else.
Y'all are not gonna
Because-
get me thrown out of the house.
Because I'm telling you, the reason why I said that, I used to say in St. Thomas, if worst come to shove or whatever, however that phrase go, I know how to dig up Main Street and plant corn. And I know my wife gonna be right there behind me. Because she knows too. You understand? That was my reasoning. And when I see them fellas come from St. Martin, pretty short can
Pretty short Gary, another quote. And taking all the girls.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
But then that says something. I mean, to be entirely honest,
I did the point I was trying to make. I did a talent. I did a talent in Anguilla here about how I am seeing the Spanish influence. Nothing against them. Most of my family from in San Domingo. But I remember on Sunday, we would all dress up. This is what I'm talking about. We would all dress up, Sunday school, and then after Sunday school, it's a big walk in the afternoon. Everybody walk up the road and down the road. Nowhere special. Stop by my father's place and have ice cream and whatever. Anguilla, where I spend most of my time. I only get out to go over there in the holidays. I noticed we had to go to church. You come back from church. Most you're doing, if you don't go to the beach, and even if you go to the beach, you come back, you go sleep. Sunday, Sunday was Sunday. Today you're hearing one sequel and I say, what the hell is happening? And nobody is saying anything about it or doing. And next to the church, you can hear it in church.
Yeah. That's sad though. I mean, we laughed at it, but
we're laughing, but it's sad.
We see where things. I laugh, and it is on all levels. A Sunday, it was so funny. A Sunday, I played dominoes every day, Monday to Saturday. You could not play dominoes on a Sunday. No dominoes playing on a Sunday. In my grandmother's house, my uncle's house, you could not play dominoes on a Sunday. My uncle used to lock, my great uncle, he used to lock the dominoes away. How dare you ungodly children go and pick up the dominoes on a Sunday? Next thing I know, I see my father, he playing dominoes on a Sunday. I say, well, then it's good for me too. You know? But you see, we're so, it starts somewhere. I'm speaking about dominoes. But it's those little things, they start to grow into bigger things. And you leave the smaller things slide, and then you start to see the bigger things slide. And then we wonder, how did we get from that to this? But Ivan, I know, I want to give them an opportunity to wrap up.
Yeah.
Because there is so much. I think see why I wanted this conversation.
This is gonna happen again too. This thing we coming up on location next time.
there is
because
so
your
much.
recording has stopped.
No,
I just
still
don't have
recording.
the
We are still.
I don't know how long that can be.
You're forever. You keep talking.
But this is I think for me a start, a beginning in getting us back to the things that we have lost, to restore our DNA, to restore our pride as Anguillians. I can do it for them because the village yard is always there,
open, right?
always open. I think the last time that I was there were people outside cleaning fish and getting stuff ready. A line of people, Ivan, are talking about. There was an assembly line.
Must have 10 people.
Of 10 people outside cleaning fish and getting this fish ready that they went and fished for. The morning.
Sorry,
I think y'all went dog that day.
Yeah. But Sharpie used to take me anytime I wanted to go. But he let me know weekend.
Okay, so we'll find some young fellas to take fishing.
Okay.
You see, we joke about these things, right? But you notice that the young people today, they're very flighty.
Yeah.
Sit down and fish.
Oh yeah.
Calm your blood pressure. Patience, teach you to wait.
Boy, let me tell you, nothing in the world better than fishing.
I agree with you there. Glenn, sorry for cutting you out, but you said fishing so leaning because I'm looking for somebody to go fishing with. What? Yeah, I tried go fishing with my cousin Kiel, but he's salt. Good God, he's salt.
I know, but he don't got time for that.
No, we gotta make time for this.
And those are the things, again, it is that sense of community. It is about making time for the things that are important. this will play after Angular Day. I think this is
Yeah.
part 2. I have appreciated this conversation.
Me too.
I've appreciated this conversation so much because while we spoke about the revolution, we spoke about some of the seeds that led us to the revolution. I think we're able to get into so much more
Yes.
than just that. And again, it's a reminder that we as a people, as a country, we are so much more than a revolution as well. And it's what we do with that that matters most. So thank you both for agreeing to come here with me,
Yeah,
agreeing for
you know,
sitting with us,
How could say no to you?
Yeah, all right. See?
agreeing for sitting with
Thank
us.
God he don't let me.
Not just for the 1 hour that we spoke about before, but for
Yeah.
sitting with us for 2 full episodes. I appreciate it very much.
Yes.
I am thankful that I can expose Ivan and so many others to the wonderful people that you are and everything that you have done for me and so many others. So thank you. Thank you so very much for being here with us.
Thank
Well,
you.
Neva, I thank you for all this praise you're doing for us. But I believe you mean it. But there's so much to be said about this revolution. I don't think we touched it.
No, we know you coming back. I just don't want to let you go home to eat now, cause.
Home to eat, you say.
But you say that there's always food. You say you don't pass the door, and I say okay.
Always food.
So where you going to
But
eat?
I'll tell you one thing. I don't like to cook home.
You don't like to cook home?
When I met him, he cooked for 2 years, and I was sitting like a princess.
That was my problem. My mind didn't work like that.
Now we-
What I did was cook for 2
Testing.
years, and it made her feel bad.
yeah.
Oh,
You know.
okay.
So
You
when
didn't walk
people
home for
hear,
I said,
I
"Talk 2
wouldn't
years
light
now."
fire if you pay me now.
No?
But he would turn on the kettle and make tea. in
Yeah,
the
we'll
morning.
make tea in the morning and in the
And in the
in the
evening.
night.
So you drink tea twice a day?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again,
Like how comes
you,
that?
you spend time with them and you know when it's tea time.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Listen, we can't rob our audience of this treasure. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put a pin here, and we're gonna have you back at your earliest convenience. I want to deep dive into this some more. Whether we come
I
on
enjoyed it.
location,
I enjoyed
Thank you.
because it you stimulate me.
Thank you very much. I got a lot that I can get in trouble for.
Oh my.
I got a lot that I can get in
Well, a
trouble
good thing
for.
we didn't talk too much.
No,
We come back and touch some more stuff on the revolution. This ain't gonna be
we
political,
can't
sorry.
get in trouble anymore.
No,
we too old
you
for
don't get
that.
in trouble for the truth.
But even if them want Troy, but who gonna hit me? I'm 40 years
Who
old.
gonna hit me?
Who gonna hit you? Like, who gonna hit you when I know you want me behave like Tasmanian devil and just spin the whole okay.
Tasmanian devil.
Spin the whole place wrong. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This has been another excellent episode of Progress Report. We will definitely be back sometime soon. Sometime soon. These stories need to be told. I think it goes as far as being therapy for a lot of people. So we're going to take this very serious, and we're going to have Mr. and Mrs. Fleming back on soon. It won't be long. I promise you soon, Gleneva.
Yes.
Good. This has been another excellent episode of Progress Report. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.